Hi everyone, Victor Menashe here, author of Magnetic Capital. I want to talk to you for a minute about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that's the idea of somebody reaching their hand into your pocket and taking your money. Now, many people argue that the government does that each and every day when they take taxes from you, but there's a much more insidious way that the government is reaching into your pocket and stealing from you, and it's not talked about very often, and that's the whole concept of inflation. Now, the government measures inflation by measuring the rate of increase of prices of a certain basket of goods, everything from food to clothing to fuel, housing costs, all of that goes into this average called inflation. But that may not necessarily be the best way to measure it. Inflation only occurs because of an increase in the money supply. This is the result of the government printing money. When they run out of cash, they start up the printing presses and they start printing money. Some of it stays in our economy, some of it goes overseas, whether it's to fund institutions like the World Bank or to fund balance of trade, many different uses, but a lot of that money stays overseas, so it actually never enters the money supply in our domestic economy. That's a very important factor because as long as the money doesn't enter our money supply, it's almost free money. It's like counterfeit cash. They got to keep the bills, but we got the cars and the TVs. All is good. We won, correct? But eventually what happens is those foreign cash reserves accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and eventually it comes back onto our shores. We start to see foreign investment in companies, foreign investment in seaports, and in real estate. There are some markets that have been dramatically impacted by a lot of this foreign investment. I'm thinking of New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Vancouver, Toronto, where we have seen dramatic increases in prices as a result directly of foreign investment. That foreign investment could not have occurred if it weren't for the printing presses and if it weren't for that inflationary impact of increasing the money supply. It was a huge time lag. Sometimes that time lag can be 10, 15 years from the time that money was printed to the time where it comes back onto our shores. So when that happens, we get these huge increases in prices. What is the impact of inflation? I think back to the late 1970s, early 1980s, when there was hyperinflation in countries like Argentina and Brazil. And I'm talking what started out as 100% per year inflation and eventually became like 1,000% per year. Well, if you were in an environment where prices were literally going up daily, where you would have to crank up your prices, you would have to crank up your salary, you'd have to crank everything up weekly in order just to keep even, well, you can survive in that environment. That's actually okay as long as you know what the rules of the game are. But the effect of inflation and the effect of hyperinflation is, number one, to wipe out savings, but number two, it equally wipes out debt. Now, you can function perfectly well in that environment as long as you know the rules of the game. If you know the rules of the game, you would play the game differently. You wouldn't necessarily hang on to your assets in cold, hard cash because you know they're going to go down in value. You would place your assets in an asset class that's going to be a hedge against inflation, one that is going to survive, one that's going to go up in price, not necessarily go up in value, but it's going to go up in price because as inflation increases the monetary value of something, not the real value, but the monetary value, the price goes up. And so if you are investing in real hard assets, you have a very effective hedge against inflation. That's something to think about when you're considering where to place your next investment dollars. It's vitally important that you make a great decision when it comes to placing your investments. I'm Victor Menashe, author of Magnetic Capital. Come check us out.